Hello and welcome back to the Moment of Truth podcast. This is the show where I invite you to take a moment to reflect and be proud of how far that we have come as individuals and as a community, but also honest about where we still have to go in our growth as supporters and protectors of Black trans power. Through personal testimony and honest conversation with community leaders, we will recognize the power we all have lurking within ourselves to not only impact our lives in a positive way, but also keep pushing Black trans power forward. Okay, I'm your host, ce-mintt, and let's get into this gig, okay? Because I have another fantastic freaking episode for you all. And as you know from the last episode, this is going to be the season finale episode. I always wanted it to be 10 episodes in this first episode, just for me to be able to get my bearings together in terms of interviewing people, creating a podcast, getting episodes out, all of that stuff. And so I'm really, really happy with how this whole season has gone. And so, yeah, this is going to be the final episode. I'm excited to sit down and talk to you all about me. I realized I don't really share too much necessarily through my Instagram, my social media about my personal life. So I was like, you know what? Let me share a bit about myself, where I come from, where I grew up. And honestly, hopefully, some of you all will get some wisdom, love, whatever you need from it. But of course, before we begin, we are going to begin with our affirmations, because our words have power, and we're going to use that power for our benefit. We're going to use that power for something positive in our own lives. And so, if this is your first time doing these affirmations with us, what you are going to do is repeat the phrase after I say it. And I want you to not just say it, but say it like you mean it. Say it like these words will truly impact your life, because they will. And so the more energy and authenticity you put into this, and the more you truly mean it, the more it truly will affect your life. And I'm just speaking from personal experience, because I don't repeat anything that hasn't worked or been proven in my own life. And I know that one of the most powerful things that I do every single day when I wake up that truly shifts my entire energy for the day is I wake up and I remind myself by saying out loud that I don't have to get up today. I don't have to do anything. I get to do it, just because getting the opportunity to wake up is a privilege. It is something that not everybody got to do. And I have this opportunity to do something. And everything that I choose to do with my day is something that I'm getting to do, and it's not something I have to do. And reminding myself of my own strength by just choosing to start my day, by choosing to get out of bed and to face all of the hardships and the difficulties I know face me, that also the things that I don't know that are facing me, that just are like things that life will throw at you. I remind myself every morning that by choosing to face that and getting out of bed, I'm already strong. Whether I accomplish anything in that day, I've already accomplished one thing, and that is choosing me, choosing to get up, and choosing to live my life authentically as who I am. So let's get into these affirmations. I am going at my own pace, and whatever that pace is perfect for me. I am doing the work that works for me, and that work is whatever I want it to be. Because I get to choose what is happening in my life. I get to determine what is going on in my life. I have control. I am listening and open to all messages the universe has to offer today, tomorrow, and forever, because I can't do this alone. And with that, we have completed our affirmation. And remember, keep going back through it. Repeat it as many times as you need it. And on top of it, remember that you can go back to this at any time and just honestly get back into the words and the phrases that are really pulling you. Because the reason I specifically wrote out these specific things are because I really just at this point in my life and in where I am, honestly, mentally, even in terms of where we are in the quarantine, I'm just at a space of trying to maintain as much happiness for as long as possible, because I've realized the amount of burnout that I consistently do to myself while trying to take care of too many people and not taking care of myself. And so, a lot of what you'll find in the affirmations from this week is about things that can help you to maintain the happiness that you have, because oftentimes we're trying to reach for more happiness, which nothing wrong with that. Trust me, I'm always reaching. But we oftentimes have to remind ourselves that we have to be doing maintenance as well. We need to keep striving for newer happiness, but also maintaining what we have now, because relationships are living, breathing things that require more than just love to grow. They require attention, they require growth, they require tending, and all of these different things. And I mean relationships with other people, but specifically the relationship with yourself. So, make sure that you are maintaining your happiness as well as striving for new happiness, because both of those things can happen at the same time. And as well, on top of it, both of those things will inform one another. So it's good to make sure that you are in communication with yourself about how to maintain your happiness. And so with that, we are heading into our rose and our thorn of this week. And I am very, very excited. I'm honored, in fact, to share with you all that I have just secured a new apartment, which I'm very excited about. I think that I'm going to be using the whole experience for YouTube content, because I've been discovering how much I actually really like doing YouTube videos, because I just love to talk. And especially now that I've come out of my depression, it is something where like, oh wow, I'm finding ways in which I am enjoying making longer form content that is inspirational, uplifting, but as well real and honest, and just like, us chilling, talking while as well growing together. And oh, mind you, this is the rose. This is the real peak of the week, mainly because this is basically the beginning of a new chapter of my self-discovery and my self-evolution in a lot of different chapters of my life, because now coming out of depression, now having come out to family, having really felt like I feel like I've begun a journey of being able to focus on myself for the first time in my life, being able to focus on my growth. And I can't remember if I've said it on the podcast before, but I've been saying it a lot over this past week. I feel like myself for the first time in like over a year and a half. I feel like I now have words for pieces of myself that I've been having to process for a while. I feel like I have the language for a lot of different things that I didn't before. And I now feel like I actually have a sensible roadmap in front of me that I can lay out for my own future that actually seems tangible and real, and something that is based off of what I want for my life and not what other people want for my life, or not things that I have set up and made myself think that I want, when really in actuality I'm just kind of being a like unconscious mother to too many people, where all of a sudden I'm just thinking about how everyone else feels and taking care of what everybody else wants while not thinking about me. So I am very interested in what the journey is going to be like in terms of like setting up a room, in terms of where I'm in my transness and my gender and my sexuality and my race and every single thing of myself that I'm getting a new connection with in a really beautiful way. I'm just excited to explore it in this new space. And I think I'm going to be sharing large pieces of it through YouTube, because I've just been thinking more and more about ways that I want to use my voice in new ways, in newer creative ways that are actually inspiring to me, and not because social media makes me think I have to worry about a follower count. And that's what's really hitting home, and it's making me happy. This whole time I've really been on autopilot talking, so I really hope that this is making sense. But yeah, it's been very fulfilling, because as well, even in the apartment searching process, it's been different than every other time before, because I feel like I'm just much more comfortable with confrontation, but not confrontation in a word, because confrontation has a negative connotation. Just speaking about how I feel and actually what I want and what I actually need in a way that like I can't really consider how another person feels until I've processed how I feel, because then it's just literally putting the cart before the horse, because I can't process how I feel if the first thing I'm thinking about is how you feel. So it's one of those things that just simply, I still care about people and how other people feel, but actually being like, Junior, you're hurt, you're hungry, you're mad, like whatever it may be, just honestly feeling it, then being like, okay, Junior, you've actually had time to process how you feel. Now let's put this into the context of the people around us and how everyone else is feeling. You know what I mean? Just having that time for yourself is so important. And that's a thing I'm going to be sharing through YouTube. I'm going to be sharing the whole process. There's actually some really fun brand ambassadors things that are happening. Well, I wouldn't call it brand ambassador because it's really like collaborations. Yes, I have some fun collaborations. There's this amazing weed shop, but not even a weed shop. They're like an artisanal, woman-owned, queer-owned, like smoke, I want to say online shop, because I don't think there's a brick and mortar. Yes, it's online, but follow them on Instagram. It's called UUYEWYEW. We got introduced by an amazing friend who I'm collaborating on something else with, who, like, it feels like I'm saying the word collab a lot. So if it does, no, it won't be saying it a lot, but more amazing roses that are along the way. So there's this amazing smoke shop, and they sent me some things that I'm excited to review for the YouTube channel. There's this beautiful ashtray, a beautiful bowl, and then a amazing grinder. Like, I feel like such a YouTuber. And then there's this amazing hat company that sent me a hat. But when I say a hat company, I mean like a stunning, like these hats are stunning. And I think this is probably the only hat that I'll ever actually consistently wear, because usually with the afro, I'm not too big on hats because I just like the big shape of my afro. I love it taking up space. But this hat, it's making me want to put something on it. So y'all are going to gag. I'm working on a lot of new things that I'm really excited to share. But that's just me coming out the depression. And I don't think there's many thorns this week. What's a thorn this week? Not really any. Like, as per usual, things have happened. Shitty things have happened. Life has been difficult this week too. Family in terms of like my aunt's health still is on the decline, but at the end of the day, my family is actually together in a stronger way than ever since my grandmother's funeral. And so even dealing with that has been a more positive experience than it has been before with my family. So even that's not necessarily a thorn, because I feel like I've been in connection with my family in a very different way, in a better way, in a healthier way. And I think that was also time for me to coming out to them. And so, yeah, I'm giving you an example of how all of basically like the thorns in my life, I try to view them through the lens of growth, which is always a very helpful thing for me in terms of, there's always going to be a negative thing going on in your life. Like, there's nobody who doesn't have something horrible, shitty happening in their life. Every single person does. But realizing that we can still grow, we can still find happiness, and just because shitty things are happening does not mean you can't have a good day. Do not let something shitty stop you from having a good day, okay? You can be a bad bitch having a bad day. You could be a bad bitch having a good day, but you're still a bad bitch. And that's like a constant reminder in my head. So yeah, there isn't really too many thorns, but that's what's going on in my life. That's what's happening. But I guess I'm about to tell you about my past, because that's our rose and our thorn. And all we really have left to get into now is a deep, beautiful, insightful interview with an amazing bad bitch, me, ce-mintt. So yeah, I guess without further ado, let's jump into that. I am very excited to go through just kind of my life. I like to think it's kind of like the spark notes. I'll give you the spark notes because I can ramble on, and on top of it, because I know my life, I could go into great detail, honey. And that I need to save for the memoirs. So I'll give you all the cute abridged version. I'm very, very excited to share it because, I can't think of a time where I've gone through and really just expressed how things affected me growing up and all of that stuff. So enjoy, and I hope that you get some wisdom, I get some wisdom, and together we just vibrate higher together, okay? We're going to vibrate a little bit higher, get to a higher level of thinking, a higher sense of self-love as well. So, without further ado, I am Junior Mint. My name out of drag is Junior. I am a proud Black trans woman and a proud Aries, okay? I absolutely love being an Aries. It very much describes me. I am very fiery, I'm ambitious, but at the same time, I'm very headstrong, very what's the word? Very much the beginning of the zodiac. You know what I mean? Like, we're leaders, I like to say. I have the same birthday as Amanda Bynes, Eddie Murphy, and one of my favorites, actually, Jane Goodall. If you don't know Jane Goodall, you need to Google her. She is an icon and a legend. But I actually also have the same birthday as Marlon Brando, which in my head, I have a great birthday that I share with a bunch of great freaking people. And I cannot wait until people are like, oh my God, I have the same birthday as Junior Mint. Like, in my head, there are going to be a bunch of trans little kids who are running around being like, I was born April 3rd. Same day as Junior Mint. Like, that's the dream. That's the goal, hopefully. But I am a proud Aries, and I am the youngest of 3 kids. I have 2 older brothers, and that already as a trans woman is a very interesting growing up, simply because I did not grow up with siblings who necessarily like to talk about their emotions, necessarily wanted to talk about what was even going on. So I really think about the ways in which I was very emotionally intelligent at a very young age, because my brothers were very caring, very sweet. Like, my mom raised them to really like use their emotions, but they still are like cis straight Black men who don't really want to talk about anything. And so, like, I can't even put it into words how many times like they could tell that something was like affecting me, but they didn't talk about it. But their way of like trying to reach out to me was just like giving me like mean feedback. You know what I mean? Like, I think about it now where I'm like, oh, that's the only way that they kind of could communicate to me. But at the same time, it's like, oh yeah, but that's also just traumatizing. And I look back at things now and I realize more and more how that is the experience of so many trans people, is whether like you grew up with like brothers or sisters, it didn't really make a difference. You really kind of grew up just feeling so excluded in things and feeling so unseen. And that was very much how I felt, because I'm now just grappling with the fact that after coming out my depression, after coming out as trans to all of my family and all of the other things, I have been realizing that I'm finally beginning to see myself the way that everybody else has said that they have seen me for so long. Like, for the first time, I've looked into the mirror and been like, oh my God, Junior, you were like drop dead gorgeous. Like, you were stunning. Like, I have the self-confidence that I like would only have in drag before, out of drag. And I realized it was so much tied to me not actually ever standing in my truth in front of the people who really meant the most to me, my family. And it really, really means the world to me that I look in the mirror and I see a beautiful bad bitch, and I never not want to see it. Now I refuse to put myself in a position where someone makes me think of myself as less than that, because bitch, I'm stunning and it feels amazing to feel it. And I look back at all of the different ways in which people hurt me growing up, and whether that be siblings, family, whatever it may be, I've realized so much of like, I broke the cycle. Like, I broke that cycle of treating somebody horribly or worse because of the pain that I'm going through and the pain that someone else inflicted on me. And that's part of the things that I love sitting down with my mom and talking about, is because we have such an open conversation where we have so many moments where we talk about how we are trying to break all of the cycles in our family, and how what my mom's intention was with like raising me and my brothers was to give us the raising, the loving, and the childhood and the adulthood and the mothering that she was lacking from her mom. Not that her mom or my grandmother wasn't like trying her best, but every single generation just has something else that they need to work through, simply because humans aren't perfect. No one will raise a child without traumatizing them. That's literally impossible. To live your life without trauma is impossible. And every parent will do it to their child. It's just a matter of, will you be attentive enough to actually care for them, to nurture them through that traumatic moment, and on top of it, to grow with them through that. Because I remember like the first big dramas that I experienced was like violence, because I grew up in Camden, New Jersey. So I grew up in like the county that had the highest murder rate per capita in the country. We had family friends who were murdered by police, and we didn't see them after literally they went home one night. We had all of those moments, and all of those were traumatizing. We had like fights within the family. We had my brothers fighting. There was so many different forms of violence, whether it be emotional or physical, that was going on around me, that just, I think that inherently I kind of sheltered myself away. I put any form of anything that I thought someone might hold against me, someone might have a reason to be violent against me for, and I shelved it away and really hid it away and chose to just be the person who only gave positivity out, so that way I would never have to worry about negativity coming towards me. And while I was always presenting myself to people, I was just always so fearful and always so quick to try to appease and be whatever someone else wanted me to be. And realizing that I'm enough and just being who I am is something that I'm so proud that I've unlearned as a child now. And I'm at a point where all of the things that I'm going to be sharing from my childhood are things that I'm still grappling with or still have effects on my life. And growing up in Camden is definitely one of those things. But I always have to say, though, growing up in Camden is part of the reason I view community as what it is. I view community as everyone showing up for everybody, whether you have something to give or not, because even you showing up is a sign of being there, because you may not have money to donate, but can you be a body at the protest? Can you still show up and support in whatever way you can? And that was what my community did in New Jersey, honestly, growing up. It was the type of thing where if somebody needed something, my family was always there to give it. Or if my family needed something, someone was always there to give. Always. You never had to worry about like somebody not having enough money for a field trip or something, because it was something where the entire court of all of the houses knew that we were all in the same boat together. And together, at least, if one of us had something, that meant everyone had something, as opposed to just one person being well off there and everybody else struggling and feeling like you have no one. And growing up there made me really appreciate so much, because I really, really enjoyed getting to really ride down like long stretches of street and stuff without having to worry about traffic and stuff, because it was like the backwoods of New Jersey, because it's Camden, there's just farms and stuff. I remember being able to, I just randomly had a memory where I just remembered I would sing the national anthem at hockey and baseball games with my school, because I was in the choir class. Also, part of the reason why like I even like started making music recently is because I was thinking back to a kid and I was like, bitch, I was singing back then. Why am I not now? And yeah, so even things like that still tie in, where I'm so thankful that my mom saw me for the like light and entertainer that I am, because she really did push me. She like saw my skills in terms of my charisma and everything, and always pushed me into the stage. And I'm thankful for it, because while I internally always like growing up a black trans kid, black queer kid, black kid period, you always understand your space and where you are and who, like where your vulnerabilities are when you're in a specific space. And I must say that like all of those things were definitely ingrained in me, but I was very blessed with the opportunity I had to have both of them as my parents, because even though my dad left when I was 10, I still like, he was a really great dad while he was there. Like that was the wildest part, is because I have memories of him, like he built a go-kart by hand, engine, frame, all of these things, headlights, seat belts, steering, all of these things for me and my brothers, because we just wanted a go-kart. And he was that type of person who, like, he wanted the go-kart too. He was a kid at heart. So was my mom. So is my mom. They're both still kids at heart. And like, I remember me and my brother, or me and my dad, standing on the go-kart together, and like one of us driving and the other one on the back, and like we'd be running around or like zooming around in this go-kart, and everyone else on the block is like, how do they have a go-kart? And then being able to be the people who are like, yeah, like, you want to turn on it? Come on, hop on the go-kart, let's go. It was like such a good moment, and it has always made me realize that, like, people are so complex. People have so many dualities, because having now gotten to know my dad as a person now over time, it's so interesting, because you never as a kid realize what's really going on. And when you truly find out what was going on when you were 6 and when you were 10 and when you were 13 and stuff, what was really going on in like your parents' lives, and on top of it, what really led up to you even getting into their lives, is such an interesting thing, because I would have never guessed the emotions that my mom and my dad were going through at the time. Because for me, I was just like, I don't know, he's just gone right now. Things seem fine to me. And so getting to have those open conversations with my mom and with my dad have been interesting. And those are more memoir stories. But one of the interesting things about my dad, I can say, is I was thinking back recently, and one of the funniest stories that I have that I always tell people is about how every year, without fail, like when I tell you, my family was a TV watching family. Like, we would gather around the screen for something. We would be watching a movie. We'd be watching a TV show. I remember every single dinner when we would sit down to eat, the TV was still playing in the background. And I remember it was always Hollywood Squares. And if my grandmother was visiting, it was Jeopardy and then Wheel of Fortune. And we would still have it on in the background, just even for noise or something. And like, we would just be joking. We'd always be laughing. And I realized that, like, that's part of where my entertainment like bone comes from, is my whole family was just joking on each other and telling jokes and trying to make everybody laugh and trying to be the funniest or whatever. And one of the wildest things that I remember is every year, without fail, I would be parked in front of the living room TV screen, watching my Miss America pageant, watching my Miss USA pageant. I would be watching the Victoria's Secret fashion show. Like, these were things where, like, my family knew, like, Junior's about to watch this. And I wish that I had that awareness that everyone else around had, like, at the time. Where, like, in my head, I wasn't thinking, oh my God, everyone is thinking like I'm queer. Like, because at the time I'm 9, but my brothers who are 4 and 5 years older than me are 13 and 14. And they very much can tell that, like, I'm this queer kid. And to see just even that I was able to sit there and watch that. And I can't tell you if my mom was like, y'all better not say shit or whatever. We haven't had that conversation yet. But it's the type of thing that I wish I had that knowledge a little bit earlier, like in terms of reflecting, because I think that a lot of what fear was struck into me in terms of coming out was fear that was very much from behavior I'd seen going on around me, if that makes sense. Because no one in my family has ever come out as queer, as far as I know. No one has come out the closet as anything, as far as I know. I'm the only person who is saying that I am trans, I'm not cis, I am queer, all of the things. Like, I'm the person. And so for me, there was no reference for me. There was zero reference in terms of my family is going to be okay with this. And when I think back now, I think that if I had that awareness to be like, oh my God, I did that as a kid, because by the time I got to be a teen and actually got to find the language and understand who I was, my dad had left. I'd gone through so much trauma at that point that, like, the thought of me even articulating that was like the least of my problems. I was just simply thinking about, like, how am I going to afford to go to college? I have to travel 2.5 hours to get to my middle school. So, like, the least of my things was like, oh, I can come out. And I think back to that, and you're not ready for this part of it, because My mom was telling me recently and refreshed my memory of how I would put on my own runway shows. Like while I was watching Miss America and all of these things, one time I took this sheet that my mom had and I wrapped it around my body and I walked out the hallway and my mom and my dad were on the couch and like the runway show went off and they started watching whatever they were watching on TV, and I put on a runway show and I walked out the hallway and I strutted in the thing, and like I remember my mom and my dad both like clapping and being like woo woo woo, and then I went back and I retied the sheet in a different way and like just like a quick change or something like I saw in Victoria's Secret, because I was obsessed with the fact that Naomi Campbell would run backstage, do a quick change, quick, we have to get Naomi's next look. And so I would do that back in my room and then run back out with the sheet for the next runway. And they just go back from the TV, clap for me, and then go back to watching. And things like that are the memories that I'm so excited to make with my kids. And when I think back to all of these things, it's one of those very interesting moments to have, to look back as a 25-year-old going on 26 and looking back at so many different pieces of my life that, like, I've seen my parents' trauma result in trauma for me. I've seen my parents' trauma result in blessings for me. And it's something that I just always go back to duality, and the fact that I am so thankful that I had my mom and my dad who were at least aware of their traumas and at least aware of what they were trying to work through and trying to create and fix in their generation, because I think that's part of where my awareness comes from. Is from everything my mom has told me, her and my dad truly, like, the thing that really bound them together for the 25 years that they were together was truly wanting to not end up in the same place and not create the same trauma and pain that their parents caused for them. And again, not as if they were horrible people, but just being raised in the 1950s and 1960s as Black people was just not easy. And I am so thankful that they tried to break the cycle, and they did in a lot of ways, but they didn't also. And I'm so excited about my opportunity with my kids to break what I can and teach them about what I can't, so that way hopefully they can break it for their children, because I'm just so freaking thankful. I'm just so thankful because I think about that time so much, and the fact that I could forget about the fact that that happened is a testament to the security and the safety that I felt in doing it, because I think back about a lot of moments in my childhood that are very distinct, and those are the traumatic moments for me that really stick. And when I think about the fact that there was a time in my life where I was so lackadaisical about like dressing up, I was walking on my tippy toes too when I was doing the runway shows, and it just, it warms my heart, because not only is it validating as like a trans person, I'm getting very emotional while I'm talking about this right now. I'm like tearing up. But not only is it very emotional and validating as a trans person, because you just kind of see like the whole time, all I wanted to do was just be like all the other girls, and it makes me emotional because I think about the fact that Junior at 6 years old would be so proud of me, would just be so proud of me. And I'm so happy that I got to do Junior proud, because that's all I ever want to do, is just keep making that little kid in me who just wanted to have fun and be herself. I just want to keep doing her proud. And yeah, I'm getting emotional. I'm trying to see if I have to pause it to compose myself, or if I'm good. Because, y'all just witnessed me unlock something emotional, because I haven't articulated that. Oh, so yeah, that's exclusive. Okay. See, this is the hard part of interviewing yourself. I don't know. Could Diane Sawyer make herself cry? Could Oprah make herself cry interviewing herself? I think not. This is an icon interview. I'm making myself bawl. I love it. I love it. But yeah, so that was really like my childhood. It was in Camden, and it was very much just free and carefree and liberating, because honestly, growing up there, because it was very country and very open and not a city, there was a lot of freedom for like me as a kid in terms of like, okay, go out and play. Like, we know you can't literally, like, you can't go anywhere because there's not anywhere to go. So I know that you're within 15 minutes of a bike ride. So wherever you are, just be back by this time. And I freaking love it. And it makes me honestly feel a little bit a ways about if I want to raise kids in New York City, just because I was thinking about it recently and I was like, I know I want to make sure that my kids have the opportunity to just be free and not have to worry or stress about, like, you know, very, very city issues. Honestly, there was something so beautiful about getting to just be like, oh my God, I'm going to go ride my bike. I know I'll be safe. I know it'll be fine. I know every single person who lives on this block and in this court. And yeah, it's one of those things that I very much treasure, because I think that independence as a kid is also what taught me how to connect to other people so well, because my mom had all of these adults around and I was always the kid who was also still in the room. I was always in the room. Like, you couldn't get rid of me. I loved being around my mom. I loved getting to be around her and watch her entertain people. I liked seeing her make people laugh. I loved seeing her entertain and be the person who's lighting up the room. And so I learned how to entertain people from her, like adults and like a whole crowd that's like 10, 20, 30 years older than me. But at the same time, I got to really connect with my friends. And I think that's like me taking all the things I learned from my mom and just using them on my friends, where I'm like, oh my God, people like to laugh. So I want to make y'all laugh. I want to make you have a good time. And so, yeah, that's a whole piece of me that I very much love. And that was growing up there. Then when my dad left, it was kind of like one of those things where are we going to live? Where are we about to go? Figuring it out, because my mom then had to like start working. And then also after she started working, she then fell at work, like slipped a disc in her neck and had to have like 2 rods and titanium screws put into her neck. There was just like a whole bunch of traumatic things that happened, and that stopped her from being able to work for a really long time. And then we moved in with a bunch of friends and all of that stuff. And then that is when we ended up moving in with my aunt, my mom's sister, in DC. And that was honestly like, I think I want to say 11 when that happened. And that was really like, really a different shift in things, because my aunt was going through her own trauma. My mom and my aunt had their own trauma as sisters and their own dynamic. And then on top of it, my brothers are both like less than a year apart, going through like deep puberty, becoming men. They're fighting. Like, literally, there was just so much everything going on around me. And there wasn't a single person who was my age in this household. There wasn't a single person who was queer. There wasn't a single person who understood. And mind you, in DC, when I started going to high school, the thing about DC is DC has no good public education system. So when I say no good public education system, the budget for DC is run by all of the people in Congress. On their license plate, you will always see taxation without representation, because DC is not a state. So they do not have senators or representatives in Congress, and they don't actually have any budgetary discretion for what's going on there. And so people in Congress determine what goes on with the budget. And the thing you have to remember is none of those Congress people live in DC. The wealthiest county in the country is Fairfax County and Loudoun County, the 2 counties outside of DC and Northern Virginia. That is where all of the Congress people live. And that is exactly why it's the wealthiest. It's because there's just a bunch of wealthy ass Congress people there who, on top of it, all of the like people who get all of their money from working in politics and stuff, they all live there. And that is why you'll also find that the top high schools in the country, like high schools, not even private ones, public ones, that ones that just like they use all the tax money from the rich people there, and so they don't even need private schools. That is also right in Loudoun and Fairfax, Virginia. So you'll find that all of these really amazing resources are right there. And when I say all of that as context to the fact that DC, my local school, which would have been a school called Calvin Coolidge, and when I went to tour the school, there was an actual physical hole in what would be my homeroom class where you could literally see the classroom below it. And you literally just had to not fall through the hole. Like if you walked into the hole, your foot would be seen from the classroom below. And that's what I mean when I say they don't have budgetary discretion. So there really is no good public school in DC. If you go to any good school, it's either a charter school or it is a private school. And that really determined the fact that my mom was like, okay, we have to lie about your address. We have to figure out how to get you into a good school that can actually serve the purposes that you want in order to get to college. And had to lie about my address, and I went to school in this really fantastic school, Eleanor Roosevelt, just outside of DC in a small town called Greenbelt, Maryland. It was a fantastic school, but it took me 2.5 hours every morning in order to just get there. I would get up at like 6 o'clock, be out by 6:30, and then I would walk 15 minutes, catch a bus, catch a train, transfer trains, then transfer one more train, then get to a bus, then walk. And it was the type of thing that I didn't realize it was a difficult thing, like if that's what I had to do to get to school, that's what I had to do. And when I look back, I just really think about how much I had to do to just get a good education. And I also realized that it was also a defense mechanism and coping mechanism in a good way, because all of the tumultuous relationships going on in the house that I had growing up, it was so easy for me to spend all of my time at school, which was so great. I joined theater, and then literally it would be like I would be at school until 10 p.m., getting home, basically cutting it real close to 11:30 midnight at that point, and then get in bed, turn around, get back up for the next day. And I would do all of my homework on the way to school or like in the time before classes begun. And so it was really just like spending as much time outside of my home as possible. And that's where I got the opportunity to begin to discover my queerness and everything, but I was still too scared to say anything because, one, I couldn't have anyone at the school find out my address, because if anybody was like, oh, could I come over, for some reason find out I didn't live in Maryland, then all of a sudden I would have to go like find a school in DC. But mind you, also, my mom would also face jail time because it's like a serious crime to lie about your address to like go to a different school. And so there was all these things where like I could be friends with everybody, but I actually even couldn't share too much personal information. And come to find out, when I was graduating, I found out that not only did my drama teacher know, I'm getting emotional again, because there's just some people in your life who like, you're like, you were an actual guardian angel because you truly like protected me. And my guidance counselor and my drama teacher both knew about it, didn't tell me or anything, but like, so apparently I found out the school would do like random, like monthly or like semesterly checks of people's addresses to make sure that people actually lived where they said they lived. And apparently my guidance counselor and my drama teacher both like kept protecting me to make sure that like I wouldn't come up in a check to make sure I could stay, because they just saw that like I just wanted an opportunity and I was just trying to do my best. And it makes me emotional because you'd be so surprised at how much of your life has been influenced by nothing but pure acts of kindness from people. You'd be so surprised at nothing more than someone just saying, you know what, you deserve this. If you could see how many tissues I have just gone through, because I've said all of this stuff before so much, but I don't know, I guess going through it all and as well reflecting on it by myself in this, and as well I'm pretty sober too. Maybe I should have taken a hit before I went into this. But Yeah, high school was very interesting because that was the whole lens of it. But like school was easy for me. Everyone was kind. Everybody liked me. I went to a school, Eleanor Roosevelt. There was about 3,000 students, so it was easy to like blend in. But on top of it, it was difficult to blend in because of who I am, and that made me kind of like a small type of celebrity. It was really cute. I loved it, but at the same time, I was so deeply closeted, just simply because in my head, I think there was so many things that I hadn't processed about even what it meant to be gay or queer at the time, because it was a time where people were very accepted. Like, I graduated high school in 2013. So this was a time where like Born This Way had come out. I ain't using that as a reference, but like Born This Way had come out and people were very much out at my school. But like, it was like, I think 20 people who were out, where it was like, yeah, you're out, like 20 people. And it was all the people in the like one queer organization, which sickening, amazing. But it doesn't make you necessarily be like, oh my God, I want to be a part of this. Mind you, there was one black person in the group too. So like, I was also like, this isn't really appealing to me. It was very, very interesting. But high school is also where, because it was a magnet school, there was such a variety of people there. Like, we were also down the street from NASA Space Goddard, where they actually control all of the satellites from space. And so many of the people who went there, their parents are like engineers or they work in NASA in some capacity. Or the whole community is really built around like college degree working people's kids. So like most of the people who I knew there were basically like their dads and their moms were like, yeah, they have this degree and they work at the college or they do something. And so it wasn't even necessarily like I really connected in that way, because none of them kind of knew what it was like, where my mom at the time was like cleaning hotel rooms like at the National Gaylord. So it's not like we really connected in that capacity, because everyone from theater, they were all amazing, all sweet, all stunning. Like, if I didn't have drama, I don't know what I literally would have done. But it was the type of thing where like we didn't have too much to connect on, even just in terms of like they would all go to like one person's house after or something like that in their community, which of course they invited me and stuff, but it was like, I have to go home. It takes me 2 hours to get home. I can't really do it. But even if I could have, it really kind of, I feel like would have been me forcing myself to be something I'm not, you know? And it's not like they listened to Tony Braxton or Whitney Houston or anything like that. So it was just such an interesting moment. And it made me realize when I'm looking at it now that how long it took me to find my people here, like where I'm like, oh, I really feel like I'm not even thinking. And the first taste of that I had actually was at Emerson. And if you don't know from all these episodes by now, I went to Emerson College. I studied scenic and production design. And the only reason I did that was simply because one of my closest friends who graduated the year before me from high school went to Emerson for technical theater, the same thing I did, but he studied technical design and I did scenic design. And he was like, Junior, you're literally so talented. You could do this. Like, you should do it. You need to do it. And I didn't even know technical theater was a thing you could literally get a degree in. Like, I grew up in a household where it was like, I knew people got degrees in like being doctors and being lawyers. Like, I knew all about those degrees, but I was like, you go to get a degree for like scenic design? Like, in my head, I didn't even think about the fact that like, oh yeah, there are people who like make money from this. Like, you can do this as a job. And when they told me that, and then I Googled that Emerson College was the #1 LGBTQ friendly school in the country, and my closeted ass was like, you're going, bitch. Because I immediately realized that I had zero experience delving into discovering my queerness. But the funny thing that Emerson would teach me is that I had to delve into my queerness, but the thing I needed to delve deeper into was my blackness, because when I went to Emerson, black people make up less than 1% of the school's population. And I was there and it was like, bitch, I am literally standing amongst like only white people, and all the black people, we literally fit into a room. And I really learned everything I know about taking care of myself and taking care of others in a healthy way from being an RA. And I'm just so thankful for the experience that I had there, because it taught me that my voice is so important and that I can really make a difference. Because going to a private liberal arts institution in Boston tested my patience, tested my everything, because I went to college there in a majority white place where most of the white people there think that all the work has already been done and like we're past racism and we're past all of this. And then to have like Trayvon Martin's trial, Michael Brown, Sandra Bland, all of these different cases and murders go on literally while I'm in college, while I'm protesting all of these things. And then as well to be paying for college myself, to be working 5 jobs while doing it, while as well having found some of the deepest friendships I've ever found in my life there. It was like everything that I needed in terms of like a reality check. It was a real moment of I for the first time felt like I've experienced life. And I say that because never before had I really, experienced getting to stand on my own 2 feet and getting to be an RA and getting to stand there and be like, I am taking care of people. My job is to take care of these people. Your lives are actually in my hand. Like, I actually need to take care of you and check up on you, not baby you, not babysit you, not mother you, but I need to take care of you. I need to be checking in with you. And it taught me how to truly maintain a relationship, and I'm so thankful for it. But it also taught me how to put up a boundary, bitch. It taught me how to put up a boundary, because if you've gone to college, you'll know what I mean. If you didn't go to college, I'm so jealous because I wish I hadn't. Because everything is vying for your attention. You literally paid money to go to a place where it's like, no, you're not going to sleep. No, here's 50 million things for you to do, and you signed up for it. Here's this thing you have to do. Here's another department that needs your attention. Here's an email. I need this responded to in an hour. And then on top of it, every single one of their professors are people who the college doesn't necessarily care if they treat you with respect or dignity or even just in a safe way at all. I remember one of the first classes I had my freshman year. It was some class about writing. Oh my God, literature of extreme situations. That's what it was. And I remember the first week we sat down and he puts on this PBS documentary about the civil rights movement. There's about 25 of us sitting in this room, and I'm the only black person. This professor is this white old man who has on glasses and can't necessarily read what he just wrote down on a paper. So this whole documentary plays about the civil rights movement, all of which, again, it's PBS. So I've seen this at the age of like 12. I know what PBS is telling me about the civil rights movement, but I thought I paid for a college course. But anyway, he pulls up the screen and he's like, does anybody have any questions about this? Nobody raises their hands. And then just looks directly to me and goes, well, Junior, you're black. You have to have some thoughts on this. And that was honestly like the beginning of my whole journey into like Emerson College, being in college, and realizing how much I needed to begin to stand up for myself, because never had I blatantly faced that type of situation in a classroom setting. Like, I can honestly say in a classroom setting, I've never experienced it. Outside, yes, racism at a party, racism at a restaurant, racism at a store, but I had not experienced a moment where like literally you're just literally doing this directly here. And the worst part is I'm paying you to do this. And so immediately I began to find my voice. I began to find who I really am and what I really stand for and what I will and will not stand for in terms of how I'll be treated. And so, yeah, it put me into a very extreme situation to talk about the least. The fact that that class was named Literature of Extreme Situations and he puts me in one. But being at that school taught me independence. As most of the things that college teaches a bitch, it taught me. But being there as a black trans woman was like next level, because I was an RA. I went through RA training. I went through 9 straight hours of sexual assault training, despite the fact that like no one who was registered to be giving us this training was giving it to us. Things that really made me learn how to put my foot down and be like, nope, hold up, wait a minute. We're not about to deal with this. And it taught me how to collectively get together my community and have us rally for things, have us actually care about the community beyond a superficial level. And it really drove home the fact that the system does not give a fuck about us. They do not give a fuck about us. Colleges that are literally there to take your money don't care about you. They literally don't. They care about the money. Their goal is to literally keep this appealing enough that your parents can keep signing checks, and appealing enough that you keep buying into the marketing and the PR that like this school is going to change your life, when really it's just putting you in debt. I only have debt from that. So take that as what you will. I have a lot more wisdom that I could share from the experience, but I am looking at the clock on this episode, and we are about to round the corner on an hour. Now, I've realized as I'm doing this, there's a lot of stories that I want to tell and a lot more that I want to go in depth of, even what I just already told you, because I realized that I think I have a journey that I should really put into more YouTube form, where I actually tell stories from my childhood. And I think that is going to be the beautiful like sibling thing to this podcast as this podcast episode winds down and the season closes. So if you liked me talking about my life and the wisdom that I'm gaining from it, and literally want to hear more, check it out on my YouTube. Check it out on my Instagram. I'm going to be doing it because I'm really realizing, like, I didn't even get the chance to tell you all about how my parents met. My parents met during a drug deal. My dad was selling, my mom was buying. My mom was trying to find a way around her local drug dealer to start buying like pounds, because she was like, why are we buying these eighths and these ounces? Just get a pound. And so my dad was selling pounds, and that's how they met. Like, that's the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more detail about how they met and their entire journey of romance. But I can't tell it all in one episode. So I'm going to be doing that on my YouTube. I love you all so much. I would give you another segment, but I don't want to keep y'all here for too long. I love you all so much. I'm so thankful for you all. We are going to keep growing, keep elevating, keep rising, keep shining, and keep uplifting other people, okay? We are in it together, and together we are stronger. I love us for real, and that is that on that, okay? I will see you all in my YouTube account and on my YouTube videos, on my Instagram and my Twitter, okay? And again, reminder, the Mariah Carey Book Club is coming next week on Wednesday, and I'm so excited to share it with you. We're going to have a good time. So keep an ear out for that, and as well, make sure that you're watching the T.S. Madison Experience every single Thursday, because I'm reviewing that on my YouTube too. Stay blessed, stay moisturized, and non-stressed. Bye. Mwah.